Somewhere in the middle of your day, something pulled you here. Maybe it happened an hour ago. Maybe earlier than that. A thought that didn't finish. A strange pause. That little feeling that something inside you had already started turning before you consciously decided to press play. That happens here sometimes. Welcome to the Hypnosis. If this channel keeps finding you at the exact moment your mind needs somewhere quieter to land, take a second to like the video and subscribe before we begin. It helps this strange little corner of the internet keep growing. And it tells YouTube that your nervous system apparently enjoys wandering into occult psychological experiments at inconvenient hours of the night. Get comfortable. You don't need to force anything. You do not need to perform healing correctly. You do not need to prove that you suffered enough to deserve peace. Just listen and let your mind notice what it notices. There's a very specific kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying guilt, the kind of for guilt too long that settles into the muscles and starts living there. Sometimes it attaches itself to a conversation, a decision, a version of yourself you no longer even recognize completely. Sometimes it survives because your mind became accustomed to checking the wound over and over just to confirm it still exists. You revisit something enough times and eventually the act of revisiting becomes automatic, mechanical. You stop realizing you're doing it. You think you're remembering. What you're actually doing is rehearsing emotional continuity. And after a while, guilt can continue long after the moment that created it has already changed shape internally. Strange, isn't it? Because the conscious mind likes to imagine emotional states remain fixed in the exact form they arrived in. But guess what? They don't. Nothing inside you stays untouched that long. Even now, sitting here, listening to the sound of my voice, parts of you have already drifted farther away from certain things than you consciously realize. That realization tends to arrive late. You may notice your attention starting to turn inward a little differently tonight, as though your awareness is becoming more interested in itself than in the running commentary surrounding it. The mind talks constantly, explains constantly, reconstructs constantly, especially around guilt. It builds entire private museums around moments it cannot stop revisiting. And every replay feels important because the mind quietly believes repetition equals responsibility. If you keep hurting, then maybe you cared enough. If you keep punishing yourself, maybe that means you learned something valuable. You keep carrying it. Maybe you remain connected to whoever or whatever was lost. Kind of odd bargain, isn't it? Humans will chain themselves to old pain because the nervous system confuses suffering with loyalty. Now, just notice something for me. Without trying to change anything, no forcing forgiveness, no pretending something never mattered. Notice how difficult it actually is to locate the exact emotional shape of the guilt when you stop narrating it for a moment. Not the story, the feeling itself. There's usually a gap there, a strange gap, because the story often arrives faster than the emotion now. Your mind learns the route so well that it starts speaking before the nervous system fully responds, which means something has already started loosening underneath the surface, quietly, long before tonight. You may even catch yourself noticing moments recently where you accidentally forgot to feel guilty for a little while. A few seconds, a few hours, or maybe longer. And then the guilt returned, almost as if your mind corrected itself. Genuine emotional performance does not need maintenance. It does not need rehearsal. And somewhere inside you, something already understands that. Even if your conscious mind has not fully caught up yet. Sometimes your guilt survives because the mind believes releasing it would erase the meaning of what happened. But memory does not disappear when suffering softens. Lessons do not evaporate because your nervous system stops kneeling at the altar of the past every day. You are allowed to retain wisdom without preserving injury. And you're allowed to remember without continuously reopening yourself. You may already be doing that unconsciously, which creates a very strange sensation sometimes. You have already forgiven yourself. The feeling that part of you quietly moved on before the rest of you granted permission. And at first, that can feel unsettling, almost disorienting, because the identity attached to guilt expects continuity. It expects emotional consistency. Yet human beings are constantly changing underneath their own awareness. Everything changes, down to your cells and perception, even your meaning. You are not standing in the same psychological location where the original guilt first attached itself. You only keep revisiting it from newer and newer versions of yourself. And eventually, something starts feeling misplaced, outdated. Let your breathing settle naturally. No need to deepen it. No need to perform trance. You're already inside the experience. You are currently inside. The conscious mind notices afterward that delayed recognition is important because your mind has probably been waiting for permission to loosen its grip in some small way already. Breathe around the memory. Enough to stop holding the emotional posture so tightly. Enough to stop unconsciously proving your morality through continued suffering. Did you know the mind often confuses guilt with control? If you keep hurting over something, it creates the illusion that you remain connected to the event, as though sustained emotional pain somehow protects against repetition, as though self-punishment keeps reality organized. But pain is not the same thing as responsibility. It's not proof of goodness, and it is not evidence of love. Sometimes it is simply a nervous system trapped in unfinished looping, and loops can become familiar enough to feel necessary. There are moments during hypnosis where you might suddenly realize you've been listening from much deeper inside. This may become one of those moments. You may notice the memory itself beginning to feel distant. Your awareness is no longer standing directly inside it, and you're observing it from somewhere further away than before. You may realize that distance was already happening before this session even began. Tonight simply allowed you to notice it consciously. Somewhere underneath all of this, there may be a deeper realization forming, one that does not need words immediately. The realization that the version of you who originally carried this guilt so intensely was trying to survive emotionally with the tools available at the time. That version of you may have believed relentless self-punishment prevented carelessness, but survival strategies do not automatically remain useful forever. Some patterns continue simply because the nervous system became accustomed to returning there. And that habit can wear the mask of truth for years. So, you do not need to force yourself to release everything tonight. That could possibly create tension. Instead, simply notice what already feels different. Notice where the emotional certainty begins weakening naturally. Notice where the body stops responding with the same intensity. Notice where the mind hesitates before reconstructing the old emotional pattern again. Once continuity breaks, even slightly, the nervous system starts discovering other possibilities automatically. Now, notice the mind reaches towards the guilt, but the feeling no longer arrives with the same immediacy. And as your awareness continues folding inward gently, you may begin sensing yourself less as the person inside the original event, and more as the awareness observing how long the event continued echoing afterward. The awareness itself is wider than the story it observes. And somewhere deeper inside your nervous system, there may already be recognition forming that you do not need to carry emotional intensity forever in order to remain human. You already changed. It happened gradually, quietly, while you were busy believing nothing inside you had moved. Take another slow breath. Notice the chair beneath you, the room around you, the simple reality that your body exists here, now, rather than back there. And allow your mind to be curious. If guilt has required constant rehearsal to survive, what happens when the rehearsal finally begins slowing down? The mind does something fascinating when it no longer needs to grip that old emotional pattern. Space opens, and inside that space, you rediscover parts of yourself that you abandoned while maintaining old suffering. Humor returns first, then energy, then curiosity. Then strange little moments where life feels immediate again, instead of filtered through constant emotional review. When that starts happening, don't panic, because healing can feel strangely disloyal at first. But you have to trust that it isn't. It's simply evidence that your nervous system no longer needs to remain frozen in the exact emotional posture of the past. Grief says, that happened. It mattered. I am changed by it, and I am still here. Breathe. Come on. I want to take you somewhere now. Not forward, not out of your body. Back to a moment just before the thing happened. Just before the choice or the failure or the word. You're there now. In that corridor of time just before. Look at yourself. The version of you who was about to do the thing. That version doesn't know it yet. It's still before. I want you to look with everything you know now. With the guilt you've carried. With the grief you've just touched. With the years of replaying. With the weight of knowing. Look at yourself. You're not a stranger. You're not a villain. That is you. At the exact edge of the moment that broke something open. I want you to feel something unexpected now. Tenderness. Yes, tenderness. For the version of you who was about to carry this weight for so long. Who didn't know yet how long. Who was in that moment just a person at the edge of a decision. They didn't have enough information to make correctly. Can you feel that? If you can't, if the guilt is too defended right now, if it needs to protect itself, that's okay. Notice the resistance. Notice the part of you that refuses to be tender with yourself. That part is exhausted. That part has been running the trial for a long time. softness in this breath. Notice the heaviness again. The place where the guilt lives. Has it changed at all? The guilt carried a message. The message was this mattered to you. You are someone for whom this mattered. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. Not to wake you up, just to let your awareness reorganize gently around what it already understands now. 1. Something inside you has already begun shifting before you consciously recognized it. 2. The old emotional rhythm no longer fits as perfectly as it once did. 3. Your awareness continues separating itself from mechanical emotional repetition. 4. You may already notice the guilt feeling further away than it did at the beginning of this session. And 5. Eyes open whenever you're ready. Breathing calmly. Mind clear. If this session helped you, subscribe to the Hypnosis and leave a comment letting me know what you experienced. And as the spell settles, until we spiral again, don't have to do anything yet. You don't have to do anything yet. You can just exist here, in this moment, before anything is asked of you, before any softening, before any release, before any of that, just here. I want to tell you something before we begin. And I need you to hear it, not as a promise, not as a technique, but as something that is simply already true. The guilt that you carried here tonight, it's already behind you. You don't believe me yet. That's fine. Belief isn't required. What I'm saying doesn't need your agreement to be true. It just needs time to catch up to you. And it will. It already has. Close your eyes. If they aren't already. Notice your breath. Not to control it. Not to deepen it. Just to notice that it's happening. That it was happening before. You remembered to pay attention to it. Your body has been breathing this whole time without you. Your heart has been beating without permission. Your cells have been doing their quiet, faithful work. And none of it required your guilt to function. Feel the weight of wherever you're sitting, wherever you're lying. Feel the surface beneath you, holding you, not asking anything of you, just holding. Let that be enough for a moment. Let being held be enough. I want you to feel something. Don't look for it. Just notice if it's there. Somewhere in your chest or your throat or your stomach. There may be a kind of heaviness, a density, something that has a shape, even though it has no name. That's where the guilt lives, in the body. You know the place I mean. Don't move away from it. Don't move toward it. Just be in the same room as it. Like sitting in a room with someone you've been avoiding. someone you've been avoiding. You don't have to speak. And you don't have to explain yourself. You just have to be in the same space. Good. Now let your awareness sink. Not down. Not exactly. More like inward. Like a tide pulling back from shore. The water doesn't fall. It just retreats into itself. Let your narrative self, the one who explains, the one who defends, who keeps the account of all of your failures with such careful handwriting. Let that part grow quieter. Not gone, just further away, like a voice, in another room. You can still hear it if you try, but you don't have to try. And as that voice grows softer, notice the heaviness in your chest, your throat, your stomach. Does it need the voice? Or does it exist on its own? It exists on its own. It has always existed on its own. The guilt was never the story you told about it. The story was just the thing you built around the guilt, so you could carry it more efficiently. But you're not carrying it right now. You're just breathing. And the guilt is just sitting there. In the room. Waiting. I'm gonna say something strange now. And I need you to let it land without catching it. You have already forgiven yourself. Not in this moment. Not as a decision you're making right now. Not as a result of anything I say or anything you feel in the next 30 minutes. You've already forgiven yourself. Somewhere, in a version of this night that is already complete. You finished this session. You opened your eyes. And you felt different in a way you couldn't quite name. And the guilt, which had lived in your chest like a stone, had changed its texture. had changed its texture. Not gone. Not changed. That version of you exists. That version of you exists. And they are looking back at this moment. And they are looking back at this moment. This moment right now. This moment right where you're still heavy. Where you're still heavy. Still uncertain. Still uncertain. And not quite believing. And not quite believing. And you recognize it. And you recognize it. You were here too. You were here too. This is what I mean when I say it already happened. When I say it already happened. You are currently inside the before. Inside the before. But the after is already real. Is already real. Let that move through you. Let that move through you. As structure. As structure. The mind wants to locate itself in time. It wants to know. It wants to Am I before the shift? Am I before or after it? Or after it? The shift. The shift is not an event. Is not an event. It's a recognition. It's a recognition. It's a recognition. And recognition. And recognition. Real recognition. Real recognition. Always arrives late. Always arrives late. You will know what I mean by that. Before this is over. Before this is over. You may already know. Let your awareness fall. Let your awareness fall. The way a letter folds into itself. The way a wave folds into the ocean. Into the ocean. The way a memory folds into the body. Into the body. Until it becomes sensation. Instead of story. Instead of story. Fold inward now. Good. Now let's speak about what you actually did. Or didn't do. Or said. Or failed to say. I won't name it. Because you know what it is. You have always known. With the particular exhausting precision of the guilty. Exactly what it was. I want to ask you something real. When you replay it, what are you looking for? Think about that honestly. In this quieter state. When you run the memory again, When you find the exact moment where you chose wrong, or failed to choose it all. What are you hoping to find? A different outcome. You know the outcome doesn't change. Evidence that you're bad. You've collected enough of that. You don't need more. Permission to stop. There it is. The guilt isn't punishment. You know that. Somewhere underneath. Punishment would have an end. Punishment would eventually satisfy something. The guilt is a petition. You keep replaying it because somewhere, some ancient part of you believes that if you feel it enough, someone will finally say, enough, you've paid. You can stop now. I'm going to tell you something about that. That someone will never come from outside of you. The verdict you're waiting for can only be issued from the inside. The place where the guilt lives. And that place, that heavy, dense, familiar place in your chest. It doesn't want your punishment. It never did. It wanted to be witnessed. So witness it now. Don't explain it. Don't defend yourself or condemn yourself. Just look at it. The thing you did or didn't do. Look at it clearly. The way you might look at something in a dim light. What do you see? A person who was limited, afraid or overwhelmed, young, broken in some particular way that maybe hasn't quite finished healing yet. A person who made the only choice they knew how. from the simplicity of what they had in that moment, because simple is harder than terrible. You're human. If you were terrible, you could build a mythology around protecting you from that. You could be the villain of a story. Which that would at least give you a role. Gives you dimension. Permanence. But if you were just a person doing the best a limited person could do in a moment that asked more than they had, then what? Then you have to grieve. Not punish yourself. Not replay the tape. Grieve for what you couldn't be. For what couldn't happen. For what was lost because of the gap between who you were and who the moment needed. Let that grief move through you now. Let it be what it is. Not guilt. Guilt is future facing. Grief closes. Grief says, that happened. It mattered. I am changed by it. And I am still here. Breathe. Come on. I want to take you somewhere now. Not forward. Not out of your body. Back. Back to a moment just before the thing happened. Just before the choice, or the failure, or the word. You're there now. In that corridor of time, just before. Look at yourself. The version of you who's about to do the thing. That version doesn't know it yet. It's still before. I want you to look with everything you know now. With the guilt you've carried. With the grief you've just touched. With the years of replaying. With the weight of knowing. Look at yourself. You're not a stranger. You're not a villain. edge of the moment that broke something open. I want you to feel something unexpected now. Tenderness. Yep. Tenderness. For the version of you who was about to carry this weight for so long. Who didn't know yet how long who was in that moment just a person. Place where the guilt lives. Has it changed at all? The guilt carried a message. The message was, this mattered to you. You are someone for whom this mattered. And as the spell settles, until we spiral again,